Hi all, this is me, Yah'Mein, coming to you this day in discussion of my title, which will be a restoring of thy kingdoms. I think it would look. First, I would like to give thanks to my Father above, below, and in the sea, and then thy heavenly brother, King Yeshua. And this topic is going to be, as I said, a restoring of thy kingdoms, which is God and the Holy One. A lot of people like to call it the divine feminine and the divine masculine for some of you. But this is the tale of old, like that Beauty and the Beast story, where the beast was cursed and his kingdoms was lost and nobody remembered who he was. And then the world was told that he was bad, and so everybody was scared of him and nobody wanted him, to be around him because of what was told on him. That's like your story of Lucifer, who is Seth, your Adam story, and also Jesus. And a lot of people don't really remember what actually took place on this earth and how Lucifer fell. And who is your Jesus? You might not want to agree with what I'm stating, but they are the same persons. And first, I would like to go back to the beginning, which is going to be found in Habakkuk. I might have to do a part two. So, as I said, we're going to have a restoring of thy kingdoms. And the kingdoms began in Habakkuk 3, when it says, God came from Teman and the Holy One from Mount Paran. So, that's telling you that God and the Holy One are not one and the same. And I actually look up Teman and Paran, which everything that's in the cosmos reflects what's on the earth. So Paran, if you look it up, it is a part of the constellation, and so is Taran. So you have two different nations coming from two different kingdoms above on the earth to start a generation. And it also says that his glory covered the heavens, and the earth was full of his praise. So they were happy above of what was taking place, this new kingdom being brought on the earth. And his brightness was as the light. That's Lucifer. He had horns coming out of his hand, and there was the hiding of his power. So if anybody know the story about Abraham, his father, whose name was Terah, Terah is short for terraform. So he has the ability to terraform. And if anyone wants to dispute this, everybody thinks of this 144,000 group of people having this X-Men chromosomes who will be able to take on a new form at the ending of time. So if they were able to terraform or going to terraform, so was this light being. And remember, your father was saying, "Oh, Lucifer, thy son of the morning, he has fallen." And as I said, we're dealing with the Bible of love, as Snoop Dogg said, which is the truth, because he fell. And he recognizes his fall because throughout Proverbs and throughout the book of Psalms and Isaiah, he's being mournful and sorrowful for what he did. And in the book of Proverbs, the father tells him, "My son, if thou be surety for thy friend, if thou hast stricken thy hand with a stranger, thou art snared with the words of the mouth, thou art taken with the words of my mouth. Do this now, my son, and deliver thyself when thou art come into the hand of thy friend. Go humble thyself, and make sure of thy friend. Give not sleep unto thine eyes, nor slumber to thine eyelids." And he's telling him, don't take on the strange flesh. And even in the book of Psalms, when he says, "O Lord, deliver my soul, O save me for thy sake. Death, there is no remembrance of thee." Thy kingdoms don't even remember him anymore. And that also lets you know, if you saw Beauty and the Beast, as I said, they didn't remember him anymore. And the Bible tells you what is bad was now made to look good, and what is good is now made to look bad. So Lucifer was given this demonic demon, or Satan, who is not even that. Satan would be those creations that they were creating him in. Oh boy, you guys call King David, which is Osiris, who were creating beings that they were told not to do. So, and then for him to recognize his husbandship, because he He fell from God because he left his estate, meaning he forsake God's word. He married a strange woman, and he was told not to. He was already brought into the world to establish with his own bride. And he says, yet ye say, wherefore? Because the Lord hath been witness between thee and thy wife of thy youth, against whom thou hast dealt treacherously. Yet it is she thy companion and the wife of thy covenant. He forsaked her for the strange flesh. So the kingdoms fell, and we don't remember no more. And as you notice in the Beauty and the Beast, he had to find the bride that was his true love in order to restore his house. So now we're dealing with the restoring of thy kingdoms. And he says, for thy maker, well, she's saying, for thy maker of all things is thy husband. Thy Lord of hosts is his name. And thy Redeemer, the Holy One of Israel, who is she. And he is the God of the whole earth, and shall he be called. So we're dealing with man and woman. And then if you read in Malachi, I think I read Malachi already. So as I'm stating, this is where we're going, because you have to learn to reverse stories. A lot of the stories are made to confuse us, and as I said, you have a lot of the pale race who are sending out lies, calling the bride of Christ. And remember, in the beginning, it says that those who are not of me shall worship me, and those who know me will not. They won't worship him. They won't partake in his covenant, because even though Abraham fell into darkness too, and he was cast out of his home, which is Egypt, God still made him a promise. So his promise still stands, even though he did an evil deed. He became the father of many nations, of strange nations. And God told his first wife, who was Hagar, that don't worry, I will still give you bless you. And even though he chose Sarah, and she's the woman of sin, because she's the one who caused him to go against his own God, which is temptation, just like the fall of Samson and Delilah. So right now we are going back into the book of Ezra, where he is the prophet who tried to gather all the men and tell them, we need to put away this foolishness and stop marrying these wives, because they're not for us. They have no good means of us. And if you look at our black brothers now who are falling. Perfect one example is Kanye. And I love that he did this album called Jesus, and you see how he fell, the cross fell upside down, and you see him on the album with 3 women, 3 strange flesh, because that's like the Samson and Delilah. Samson lust and his temptation for those Philistines, filthy Philistines, got him in a whole web of trouble where his hair was cut off, meaning that they disconnected him from the connection of his forefather. So this is where we are now. Our men are no longer connected. And then it says Lucifer, the reason he fell, because he caused other men also to fall. So other men too. This is where we're living in a continuing generation. As it is above, so shall it be on the earth. So if they fell before, you're still continuing on the cycle of falling. Like black men, they no longer see their woman as a prized possession, so, and they look for the strange flesh woman. And when she get mad, he's a nigga, you understand? And they're killing your children, and nothing is being done. And if you know the Darth Vader story, like when I'm gonna call him Jesus, or as I said, Seti, Lucifer, he fell. When he fell, he took on a different being. He became dark, and he started killing he started slaughtering his own people, just like in Egypt. Seti started killing off his own people, and he was in that rage of darkness. So we're still repeating the same behavior patterns. You have these uppity blacks who be like, those poor black Negro boys who die, they don't see no value in them because, they're nothingness, or they're like Hillary called them deplorables. So we're still in that same mindset. So you forgot who you are. You forgot that ye are gods. Just like Lucifer, he's here on the earth, but he's not who he is. He has to hide himself. He can't be himself, so he portrays himself as Jesus. And the world worship him in that manner, even though Asher whatever you want to call them, because these are all the same people. We're dealing with a kingdom, a heavenly kingdom, a heavenly mother and a heavenly father. As I said, a lot of people don't remember what took place on this earth, so you will not agree with me. That's because you don't know what happened. But they're telling you this in your cartoons. They're telling you this in the remake of the movies, that once Lucifer, who was so prideful, and lustful, so it tells you how he had a lot of women, and none of them stayed with him or whatever because of his pride. He probably thought he was all of that in the bag of chips. I don't know. But it was this one woman who had the ability to put him back in his place because she was rude back at him. This is where we're going. We're dealing with a story of old, a book of love, a book of bloodlines, and a restoring of thy kingdoms. And a restoring of that black woman, Hagar, Vashti, who was dethroned by Esther, because Asher, who was the king at the time, he dethroned her because she wouldn't, want to dance for him in front of his friends while he was drunk, and he married Esther, even though he still loved Vashti. He never stopped loving her, but he was not, in his mind, he was listening to his friends. That's why the scripture tells you, if thy friends, you don't listen to your friends, you understand, the covenant of your father. So this is what we're dealing with. We're dealing with a story of old, and why in Genesis it says that the women will want their men and the men will not want them. You understand? This is what is going on, and that he will not rule over you, woman, and you will cry out for him, and his heart will be so cold towards us. So our black men are still under this spell called sleep. We still under those cosmic forces, because remember when the men came into the earth and they started taking these women, they were teaching these women their magic, their sorcery. They were teaching them to do all these defiled things, and they got smart and used it against the men. And now he don't want you. And it says Lucifer never said that he wanted to be like God. He was the wicked woman. If you read Proverbs, it was the strange flesh woman who was the evil one. She wanted to be like God, which is us, woman. She wants to be like you. Okay, so we're dealing also with the reversal of story, reversal of roles, because as I told you before, Noah, she's always been the savior. She's always been the one to, as the holy one, take on that role of trying to get the attention of the people to come back and live righteous, that yin and yang. And he's that beast, in his fallen state, he's beastly. Anyway, I'm just I'm tired as hell, if you all can see that. But I just wanted to shed some light on where we are at in our beings, as beings on in a fallen realm, because we're in a fallen state. Woman too, we too now, you're lusting after other men as well, but we're dealing with a fall here, so you really can't be angry, and you have to learn forgiveness as a kingdom, because both male and women have fallen. This is why we're in the mess that we're in, and we have this white and black issue, which is never going to go away. It's written that it's written that some will try to mingle and marry, and it still wouldn't work, okay? But it's being done because we're following an order of the fall. So if he fell and he lusted after other women, the men here that's on this earth, they're still in their fallen state, so they're still lusting after other women. And what are we as females doing? You women, we don't have a man, so now you're trying to make yourself suitable and lovable to every other man. And we all have forsaken the righteousness and the covenant that we were all under. So when they're talking about this bride and Jesus coming to rescue his bride, actually it's kind of like the other way around. And then you get this Sleeping Beauty, because she wakes up. She's able to see. She's able to understand what's going on. And she has to help him, because in the book it tells you about him being redeemed. He's asking, Lord, please send her back. I need her to help me, to redeem me. And forgive me. So he's weeping. He's been weeping and weeping and weeping and weeping. As I told you, you have these Aleister Crowley men. You have many beings who has changed the book in the scriptures to confuse us so that we are no longer in remembrance. We no longer understand what actually had taken place and what's going to come. Everybody's waiting for, that reparations, but it is Lucifer who has the promise. So he's the prince. He's the way to God, actually, because he is his son. You may not like what I say, as I said, but it's the truth. So, and the white people, they serve him because they know who he is, even though they distort the story, because they have to give you lies and truth. But in all actuality, if you really, really, really study and show yourself approved, you're going to come to the conclusion that these beings are all the same person. Very funny, sad, because it's playing on our mind, it's playing on the spirit, and then we're believing in lies. And remember, it's cosmic forces, because you're dealing with principalities. So now these beings who are using your magic against you to suppress your mind, suppress your knowledge, so that you don't wake up and keep you imprisoned here too, and you're not loving yourself and wanting to seek outside of what is being taught. Because if you continue the pattern, then Lucifer, he will continue in his defiled state, and the people, these women of the pale race, they will continue to think that they're above, the natural covenant. So now we're all out of covenant. We're all messed up. We're all jacked up. But will the kingdoms be restored back to righteousness is up to us. As I said, before there's an exodus off the earth, which is going to be through that sun. Like Lauren Hill said, we're going to walk right up to the sun, because they even told you too that the sun is bad. But if you read the books, it says S-U-N, son of righteousness, not S-O-N of righteousness. So we have been deceived and misled on purpose, big time. That's why it says to seek and show thyself approved. Well, who are you showing yourself approved for? Each other? I mean, who's watching you to know that you have researched and did your studies and showing yourself approved? Because you're giving back this technology and everything's going up to that cloud. So the Prince of Air and the beings up in the cosmos, they have access, because it's World Wide Web, to know who and what is going on. As I said, those reapers on the earth, because the reapers were the angels. The book never told you about angels, because they were always identified as reapers. They're seeing, they're assessing, they know who is the good, which is the wheat versus the tares. They're watching everything that we do. So it is to study yourself and show yourself approved. For who? Who are we studying for? Who are we being approved by? Think about that. Like, who's watching? Who's watching to see if who's well learned, or who's studied, and who's remembering, and who's waking up to know, forgive me, I'm deadbeat tired. Who's aware to what really happened on the earth. Because so many clues is left and given to you, but it's up to you to really look and go deep and push yourself out past the normal knowledge that is thrown at you for a reason. As I said, you can listen to these white people all day, all you want, about this bride and bridegroom story, because they are the divine feminines and divine masculine, which is back to your Adam and Eve story, which is, them falling and being kicked out of the garden, they falling out of that heavenly state down back to the they're in their lower realm. Their lower realm which is lust, because she too even lusted after her own creation. Think about that. Oh. Anyway, so I ask my people too, are we willing to come up out of our flesh? Because that's where we in. Many of our issues come because of fleshly shit. But if we all dwelt in our spirit, we wouldn't be having the problems that we have right now on the earth. Because everybody is so so-called conscious, but and somewhat spiritual in their essence, but you have to embark and embody the spirit, which is forgiveness and understanding, and with and not being judgmental, but also not loving to stay asleep, not loving to stay in your so-called sinful nature, which is in your lower nature. If you fucking up and you keep fucking up and you be like, well, God know my heart. No, motherfucker. Get it together and stop falling so that you will not have to keep repeating the same. You don't have to keep repeating the same cycle. Are you not tired of coming back here repeating the same things over and over? I know I am, because if you read the Coburn Bible, it's like